a personal rebirth, finding renewal in the immersion experience. Malka Chana is a certified birth doula, Lamaze childbirth educator, and college teacher who educates and empowers women as they go through life cycle transitions. She lives in Toccoa with her husband and 4 children. Would love to hear from you, Malka Chana. Thank you.
I think let's just make sure Malka Chana can, Malka Chana, you can unmute yourself.
Better. Thank you, Naomi, for letting me speak, for helping me find my voice. Hi, everyone. I'm Malka Chana. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. So the focus of what I want to give over today, I was asked to highlight the aspect of birth. Because I have a background in birth, helping women give birth for the last 10 years, prenatally, during birth itself, and postpartum, to kind of bring in this idea of rebirth. Do I feel that spirituality of mikvah is only about birth? No. I think that some people that know me might think otherwise, because I could speak about birth all day. But for the purposes of this talk, I am going to highlight birth, even though there are different ways beyond the experience of personal rebirth to connect to the mikvah experience. So before I get into what I want to give over, similarly to what Rachel was saying, just to kind of give a small disclaimer that if someone is not having a spiritual mikvah experience, that's okay. They don't have to have a spiritual mikvah experience. They may not want to have a spiritual mikvah experience. They may just want to do the deed and be done, and that's fine, okay? But I think that my assumption would be is that a lot of people joining a forum like this, that people are searching for some type of spirituality, to find some way to bring life and to bring like a personal renewal, to feel something in the mikvah experience rather than just all the technicalities. All of the technicalities of mikvah are very easy to get caught up in because it's a lot to remember. You know, you have all your checklists and, you know, want to make sure you're doing things the right way. I think that no matter how many years we're married, you know, we're always kind of like, okay, I do my head to toe checks. So we're constantly kind of focusing on the technicalities of mikvah, but there is a lot of room there to experience more than that, to feel, okay? So wherever you're holding, the same thing I would say to my yodot when they're giving birth, whatever birth experience you have is your birth experience, and it doesn't have to be something else. You don't have to go the natural route. You don't have to go the epidural route. Wherever you're at is where you're at. So small disclaimer, wherever you're holding, I hope you can get something out of what I want to give over. Take it or leave it, okay? So to get started, to start with a little bit of math, and then we'll tie it all in. So many of us, whether we're Ashkenazi or Sephardi, we practice holding 5 days of bleeding in the beginning of our experience of going into Nida, and then we count 7 clean days, whatever clean means in terms of purity. I find that words are often very limiting and kind of can come with assumptions and judgments. So words like clean, it's not about being sanitary, they're just technical terms. If we're Sephardi, we may be counting 4 days of bleeding, potentially even 3 days of bleeding, okay? And so what do I want to highlight here? A little bit of math before I hopefully inspire you and blow your minds, if that's what you get out of my talk, is the idea of counting 5 days of bleeding. It's actually based on a biblical concept, which I'm not going to spend time going into right now, a biblical concept of the zava, okay, of the zera, that we're really counting about 3 days. A lot of the numbering of the 5 days of bleeding comes from this idea of semen staying alive within our bodies for 3 days, okay? So for the sake of this talk, even though in practicality we're practicing usually somewhere between a 3 to 5 day range of counting our bleeding and then counting our 7, for the sake of this talk, we're gonna stick with the biblical idea of it really being about 3, okay? So if we're thinking about 3 and then 7, what does that equal? That equals 10. What else is 10? Can anybody guess, right? Birth. okay? The experience of pregnancy. So even though in our minds we feel that pregnancy is really a 9-month experience, it's actually 9 completed months of pregnancy, which is really 10, right? 40 weeks of pregnancy is 10. So we have already this mirror between the pregnancy and birth experience and the mikvah experience. So how am I going to tie this together? How is mikvah going to be our personal rebirth, paralleled with the experience of pregnancy and birth itself? So in the beginning of our pregnancy, first 3 months, where our personal identity is experiencing a massive hormonal shift. We may not be clear of what's us, what's the pregnancy, what's the hormones, what's going on, right? We're experiencing a totally new aspect of ourselves. Similarly, we are also experiencing massive awe of our bodies, that our bodies just know how to go on this autopilot when we're pregnant. Our baby just grows. I mean, obviously we know how it got there, but in the pregnancy itself, it's just slowly evolving on its own, okay? Then we enter the 7 months after the first 3 months. The 7 months after, we're experiencing, okay, this is my new norm. I'm pregnant. I'm getting used to this. I'm kind of on the other side. I mean, I know it's not like that for everybody. A lot of people are throwing up the whole time, but we're kind of on the other side in this next phase of our pregnancy experience, and now we're preparing for the birth. So how are we going to parallel that to our mikvah experience? When we go into nida and we're experiencing our period, also huge hormonal shift. We feel like ourselves, but we don't feel like ourselves. We feel very vulnerable. We may feel very sensitive. We kind of often want to like go into our female cave, okay? And I know that everyone relates to their period differently, but for myself, I'm in awe of my body when I'm menstruating, how our body just knows how to clean itself out, to have this huge spiritual release of letting go, this energy that just happens. Our body just knows what to do. This autopilot for our female physiology is amazing. Then after we get our period, right? So now moving on to the 7 of the 10. So now we're on the other side. We've passed this huge transition of menstruation, and now we're in our 7 clean days. So our 7 clean days is Ki'ilu, phase 2, similar to the second half of like the 7 months of the pregnancy, right? Where we're more comfortable now, we're in a groove. I'm still in nida, but I'm not menstruating, and now I'm on my way to birth, okay? I'm on my way to birth. I'm on my way to my mikvah experience, okay? So what's coming next? When we're pregnant, we also, many of you, I'm sure, have done this, signed up for maybe something like babycenter.com, right? Where you get your emails every week and every month of what's going on with your baby. Your baby has fingernails, your baby has eyelashes, right? So we're seeing like this production of a fetus. What's happening within us when we're in nida is similar. We're also checking in with every single part of our body. When we're preparing for mikvah and we're going through all of our mikvah preparation and we're going head to toe and we're moving all of the chatzitzot, we're doing the same thing. We're checking in. We're checking in with our hair. We're checking in with our eyelashes. We're checking in with our fingernails. We're honoring the experience of the self. Very often as women, we can walk through this world or run through this world, moving very fast in these robotic bodies. And we don't often get the opportunity to be like in our goof, to be in our goof. And in this mikvah preparation process, this is potentially our opportunity to tap in, to connect with our humanness, to connect with our body, with our neshama that we want to kind of enliven in this mikvah experience. So as we're doing our mikvah preparation, we're blessing ourselves, right? Whether it's like b'kavanah or just subconsciously it's happening. We're blessing, our hands, that b'ezrat Hashem, we should be blessed to use our hands for good, to give our children hugs, to hug ourselves, to love ourselves, that our feet should be walking on this earth in a grounded way, that our mouth and our throats and our mind, that we should have the clarity of mind to have good speech. All of these things, we're checking in with who we are before our birth. So yeah, there's a lot of technicalities, there's a lot of checklists going on, but what's happening is we're waking up our self, okay? Which I don't know about many of you, but for myself, that ability to connect just with my thoughts and my mind and my self-care is very limited. So this is my opportunity. This is my opportunity to make mikvah a self-care experience and a spiritual experience. So now, we've gone through the pregnancy of mikvah, right, of nida, and now we're headed to the birth. Okay, so we're at the end of our 7 now, and we're preparing for the mikvah. We're preparing to birth, right? We're entering the end of this period of pregnancy. So what are we doing? We go to the mikvah. We're standing in the water. We are raw. We are raw. We are pure. All of our jewelry that we might not ever take off is off. We are the most raw and vulnerable that we have ever been. The only other time that maybe we've been this pure, this clean, is when we're in our mother's womb. When we're in our mother's womb, we're this pure fetus that is just being kept in this cozy environment of warm water, and we don't know where we're at, where we're going. When you think about the energy of a baby in a womb, it's just growing. It has no idea what life is like on the other side. It doesn't know who Ima is. In a spiritual sense, in an energetic sense, they definitely know. But they just have this ultimate emunah that I am in this womb, I am protected, my Ima is there for me, and I can be whoever I am, and my Ima will hold space for me and love me no matter what. And so we potentially can bring that aspect of being in a womb to our mikvah experience. We're standing there in the mikvah in this warm water, naked, raw, pure, vulnerable, with all of our baggage in Hashem's womb. We're standing in Hashem's womb. Hashem, please love me no matter who I am, what I have to bring to this world. Help me feel safe enough to be born, to feel reborn, right? So we have this parallel of this idea of rechem, right? The uterus, right? So rechem is also rachamim. It's a place of compassion. When we're standing in the mikvah, we're bearing all, literally. And that's a very vulnerable feeling and not something that a lot of us feel comfortable doing. I think most of us don't feel comfortable doing that on a spiritual level, on a technical level. If there's a balanit there, that's an aspect, seeing ourselves and our body image issues. We're holding a lot. And the thing that can potentially help us hold, kind of like what Rachel was saying, also holding those two feelings of like, I feel really raw right now. I feel very vulnerable right now. And I want to not feel alone or vulnerable. I want to feel loved no matter what. So we're holding both. We're holding this, I feel so unloved, or maybe I don't love myself, or wherever we're holding, and the ultimate yearning for that. So the mikvah experience can be that potentially for us. It may not be. So again, no pressure. I don't want you all to expect fireworks the next time you go to the mikvah that you're wow, this is the most spiritual experience I've ever had. Because it's not like that. Okay. It takes time and yearning and ratzon and practice and mindfulness and visualization to get to that space. So we're standing in the mikvah and we're bearing all, right? And we're wanting to feel welcomed. Come as you are. Mama's gonna love me no matter what. Hashem's gonna love me no matter what. And we're ready to do our tefillot, right? We're ready to do our dunks. So how am I gonna tie this into birth now? Getting ready to do our dunks could be our contractions, right? When a woman is in labor and she's close to birthing and her birth is coming soon, she has the contractions, the contractions come, she's doing the work, she's moving, she's swaying, she's breathing, whatever she's doing, she's working. Then there's a pause, and then there's another contraction. So in our mikvah experience, it's the same thing. We have the dunking, right? We're actually standing, we're doing something with our body, and then there's a pause, and then there's another dunk, and then another pause. So what do I feel is the magic within the process, the play-by-play of mikvah? It's the pause, just like in birth. In the contractions, we're working hard. In the pause, that's our moment to realize where we're at, to get present with our experience. Wow, I'm doing this. This is hard. I don't know where it's going. There's no way out but through, but I'm going to do this, and I'm going to feel strong, and I'm going to be an empowered woman, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to take the risk to reap the benefits. In the mikvah, we're doing the same thing. We do our first tefillah. We take that pause. The balanit will not rush you. You take that moment. This is your time for you to connect to mikvah, to connect to yourself, to finally have that time of quiet, of mind and space to daven. As a woman, it's very hard to have that time where we're quiet. You take those few seconds between your dunks, between your contractions, and you daven. You daven for the yearning to want to daven. You daven for the yearning to want to connect to Hashem. You can set a kavanah in your head about your life, your husband, your kids, parnasah, whatever it is. You take a moment to set a kavanah, and then you get ready and you do your next contraction. Your next movement, you're going down and you're manifesting that. So what is that saying? We're working hard, we're being present, we're being mindful, honoring the space between, and then after, we're ready to be born. So here's the last catch of what I want to give over, and then we'll let the next person go, is one of the things that's amazing, 1,000 gazillion amazing things about birth, but one of the things that I find so profound is what starts birth, what starts labor, when the baby decides it's ready to be born, it's born. When the baby's lungs are developed enough and it knows it can breathe now, it sends a signal hormonally to the placenta, through the mama, goes to the mama's brain, and her body starts contractions. The baby knows, I can breathe now, I can come out. And that's us. Our experience in the mikvah is, I want to be reborn. I want to breathe. I want to be anew. I'm nervous about this journey. Life is not easy, especially now. And I'm deciding to take that breath. The same way that Hashem breathes breath in and into our neshama, helping us come to life, as soon as that baby's nose touches air, it breathes. It breathes. And you wonder why water birth is safe? Because they go from water to water. If their nose doesn't touch the air, they're still getting air. They're still getting oxygen through the placenta. They haven't breathed yet. Their nose touches the air and they take that first breath. And that's us. In our last tefillah, when we stand up and our nose touches the air, that's the breath of rebirth that we experience. So lots of birth, lots of mikvah, lots of spirituality. So wanting to bless all of us this year with really the yearning to connect to ourselves, to have the desire to be reborn, whatever that means for us on a personal level. Mikvah is about the relationship and it's mashpia on our children and all of those nice, beautiful thoughts. But really, this is an opportunity for us to connect to ourselves, to refuel our kli, to want to breathe breath into ourselves and not always be focusing about breathing breath into others. This is about us. So mikvah, we can own it, we can own our birth, we can own our mikvah, and we can own our femininity. So Shana Tova, that's what I have to give over.